Gaining financial stability has been a goal of every human since currency was created. Some people find it easier to achieve than others, and others not so much. Some people, on the other hand, will exploit others' needs for financial freedom to further their own. In this video, we showcase the top 5 financial cons in history to date. If you like what you see, please be sure to smack that like button and subscribe for more content. Number 5. Charles Ponzi. Charles Ponzi, whose name has become synonymous with the term financial con, was an Italian swindler who immigrated to America in the early 1900s. Born into a once affluent family that had fallen on hard times, he briefly worked as a postal worker before abandoning it to pursue a jet-set lifestyle with his university friends in Italy. He was broke by 1908, and his family, hearing success stories from the land of opportunity, pushed him to try his luck in America. Ponzi arrived in Boston with $2.50 in his pocket and worked his way up from dishwashing to waiting tables, where he was fired for stealing, clerk, and eventually bank manager at Banco Zerossi in Montreal. Ponzi observed the stealing from Peter to pay Paul that would become the trademark of the scheme that would eventually bear his name at Banco Zerossi. When one division of the bank got into trouble, Ponzi's boss funded its interest payments with a steady stream of new deposits. Ponzi had been to jail and back for forging checks by 1920, but he was still nowhere near ready to go straight. He identified an arbitrage opportunity in postal reply coupons, claiming that the coupons would generate a 50% profit in 45 days due to the arbitrage arising from different postal rates in different countries. Thousands of people lined up to invest as he paid early investors with the proceeds of subsequent ones, thereby proving his case. Investors lost nearly $10 million when the scheme finally collapsed. Ponzi was imprisoned for about 15 years before being deported. He eventually ended up in Brazil, where he died penniless. Number 4. Victor Lustig, the man who sold the Eiffel Tower twice. Count Victor Lustig, an Austro-Hungarian con man with a lengthy criminal career, traveled from America to Paris in 1925. There, he ordered stationery bearing the French government's official seal. Following that, he went to a well-known hotel, pretended to be a government official, and wrote letters to the top people in the scrap metal industry, inviting them to a meeting at the hotel. During the meeting, he revealed that, for reasons he could not discuss, the French government planned to demolish the Eiffel Tower and sell the scrap metal to the highest bidder. The bids began to pour in. Lustig allegedly pulled off the Eiffel Tower ruse at least twice, but when he was finally arrested in 1935, it was for running a massive counterfeit banknote ring. Soon after, he escaped from the impossible federal detention center in New York, only to be apprehended and sent to Alcatraz. In 1947, he died in prison. Number 3. Ivar Kruger, the Match King. Swedish-born business mogul Ivar Kruger, who owned banks, film companies, newspapers, mines, telephone companies, and railways, was also making hay in 1920s America, albeit more ostentatiously. When he decided to create a monopoly to control the global market in safety matches, international banks rushed to invest. Kruger loaned money to governments at single-digit interest rates while paying double-digit dividends to his investors in order to secure the international support required to create a global monopoly. The financial statements he provided to investors in order to attract a steady flow of new capital were forgeries. The scheme began to unravel during the 1929 stock market crash, when investors sought to cash out. Kruger hung on until 1932, when he was discovered dead in his apartment, allegedly shot in the chest. The financial world mourned until it was revealed that he had spent a large portion of his investors' money, $250 million, or $3.75 billion in today's dollars. Number 2. Sam Israel III, the Bayou Guy. In the late 1990s, Samuel Israel III, a likable and charismatic American hedge fund manager, founded Bayou Hedge Fund Group. In response to poor performance, Israel began faking his numbers in 1998, even going so far as to establish his own accounting firm. He was able to deceive his investors until 2005, when redemption demand forced the scheme to collapse. In total, he cost investors $350 million. Israel pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 20 years in prison, but he managed to elude authorities for a short time by faking his own suicide. After a nationwide manhunt that was featured on America's Most Wanted, he turned himself in 2 months later. He is currently serving a 22-year prison sentence in North Carolina, only 60 miles from Bernie Madoff. Number 1. Bernie Madoff. If you're old enough to remember the early 2000s, you've probably heard of Bernie Madoff. If you aren't, you can watch Robert De Niro's portrayal of the man on HBO's Wizard of Lies. In 1960, Madoff established a penny stock brokerage, which grew into Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities. The firm was one of the top market makers on Wall Street, and it gave birth to the asset management division that became the epicenter of the world's largest Ponzi scheme. Madoff cooked the books in a similar manner to Sam Israel, but to add to the drama, Madoff's victims included high-net-worth individuals, celebrities, charities, and institutions. The SEC investigated the firm's business practices several times over the years, but they never discovered the massive fraud that was taking place right under their noses. During the 2008 financial crisis, Madoff's sons informed authorities that their father had confessed to them that the Madoff Asset Management Unit was a massive Ponzi scheme. Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison for defrauding investors out of $18 billion in capital and $65 billion in assets, including fabricated gains. Thanks for watching Top 5 Financial Cons. Please let me know in the comments if you know of another huge con story. And remember, if you like what you see, please smack that like button and subscribe.